nicely done wrong. What does that mean? That means, why does bad things happen to good people? I'm sure you've heard that saying before, but a perfect example to show why and how is over in Genesis, the third chapter, with Cain and Abel. We know the story. We know Cain killed his brother, but let's look at what happened in the process of leading up to him murdering his brother. Because murdering doesn't start at murdering. We know hate carries along until that end process. And that's the done wrong with the nice part. And so it starts out when Cain's mother, Eve, had him. What did she say? I have acquired a man from the Lord. And so she named him Cain. Cain name means possession. That means being excited about the abundance of things of life, the things of life. And so you have his brother Abel. When she had Abel, she said she was going to name his brother Abel. And Abel's name comes from vanity. You know how, like, over in Ecclesiastes, it talks about vanity of vanity. There is nothing new under the sun. That's what Abel's name means. It means, there's nothing new. There's really no big deal to the gain in labor or the reward in labor. So you can see their personalities. And so as it moves on, both of them had something good about them. They had the gifts that they operated in. Abel was a farmer. Cain was a gardener. So they had a good part about them, the gifts. They knew had a special thing going on. And so the next part talks about what type of heart they had. You can see that when it came to giving to the Lord. How did it say that Abel gave? It says that Abel gave of his first fruits. That means that he gave his best. If Cain would have gave of his best, it would have said tithes, because tithes is mentioned when it comes to grains and things of the ground, and first fruits is mentioned when it comes to the flock and the animals and things like that. So you can see where the heart was when they gave. And so what did it say? It says the Lord exalted Abel's gift. But Cain's, it wasn't accepted like Abel's. And what happened? What happened to Cain? Now, if you look at that, Abel was this innocent bystander. He just given his best because he is Abel. And so Cain is upset and angry because his gift was exalted and his wasn't. And so what did it say? It says that he rose up and he killed his brother. Now let's see what's all in that, because it was a fair deal, because the Lord told him that after he was angry, the Lord asked Cain, why are you angry? He said that if you was doing well, then your gift would have been exalted. But if you're not doing well, that you're doing wrong. And so fair is fair. Your brother won fair. And so some people still hold anger when a person is just being their best person and they got something over on them. They still want to be upset and angry. Why is that? Because they're beholding themselves in a glass. They see who they are, but they looking at the other person, and sometimes it pressures them to be a better person, because the Lord told Cain, if your gift wasn't accepted, sin is at your door. That means wrongdoing is with your decision making and when you're coming and you're going. And so how do we suppose to treat a person like that? Cain was Abel's brother. And so listen to how we supposed to treat people that reprimand us for being the best us. So Proverbs, the first chapter, the third verse says, receive reprimand for wisdom. That means the good decisions that you're making about your life, your gift. You're rolling with your gift, doing all that you could do, just being you. It says, receive the reprimand because of your good decisions. That tells you the people that around you could just be jealous like Cain was from Abel, just you being you. You have done nothing wrong. And so you have the second part of that verse. It says, receive reprimand for righteousness. That means receive reprimand for your decisions that you're making because you're that good person operating in your gift. Then it says, receive reprimand from judgment. Now, that's the other person. That's the other person that wants to say your good is wrong and your bad is right. And so we have to receive that type of person. That's the same type of person over in Romans, the 14th chapter, that has limited what they can do, and another person has not limited what they can do. And then this person that's put limits on themselves is judging the other person. So it starts out saying, receive those that are weak in faith, not to dispute over who's right or wrong. So it says, receive that type of person that wants to give you reprimand of judgment that you're wrong and you're doing the right thing. It says, receive him, don't dispute. It says the person that's put limitations on himself, he's called weak. And so he's called weak. He's also called out by God for judging the other person that's being his best person that he could possibly be. That other person in Romans, the 14th chapter, is consuming and partaking everything, and that weak person has put limits on him. But he says the person that is doing everything and hasn't put limits on himself, it says still treat that weak person like they important. Then the Lord reprimands that weak person for judging the other person. He says, who are you to judge another man's servant? And so that person is judging, is trying to play the role of God. When a person does that, they receive the reward that Cain received. So let's go back over to Genesis, the 4th chapter. Genesis, the 4th chapter, talks about how Cain, what did it say? It says Cain rose up and killed his brother Abel. So when we have people that are close to us, we can't just be focused on our good gifts. Even though we're making the right decisions, we need to see what's in that person's heart that is around us, especially if they have a competition spirit. They will want to compete with what we have, even though they have available the same gifts that we have available. And so it says Cain rose up and killed his brother Abel. And so when the Lord came, what did the Lord say? The Lord didn't ask him about himself. First thing he said, where's Abel? Where's the called one? The one that's doing what they're supposed to be doing. And then he asked him, what are you doing? And so that person is going to be held accountable by God. God said, vengeance is mine. First, he cursed him where his gift is at. He said, you're not going to yield or produce in pertaining to your gift. Then he told him he going to be unstable. He going to be a fugitive and as a vagabond. That's a person that can't aim at nothing, can't set any goals to be productive. So pretty much they have sown to a worthless life. So there you go. You know how to treat those people that try to bring judgment on